For the next hour, deepen your shade of green. This is the Shades of Green radio show, featuring the latest in technology, money-saving ideas, legislative updates, and all things green. The Shades of Green radio show is presented by the Green Alliance. Now here's your hosts, Paul Ira and Stan Hannell.
Good morning. This is the Shades of Green radio show, simulcast on KDWN 720 AM and KDWN 101.5 FM in Las Vegas. Our show is produced by the Green Alliance of Nevada, sponsored by MV Energy, and I'm your host today, Stan Hannell, filling in for Paul Ira. Also in studio today, I've got Julie Chadburn from the Clark County Reclamation District, who will be talking about the work that her organization does every day to ensure that Southern Nevada residents have clean tap water from our home faucets. Green Alliance of Nevada will also be supporting the Clark County Water Reclamation District and its Clean Water Fest 2018 event on Saturday, November 3rd from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Flamingo Water Resource Center. That's at 5857 East Flamingo Road in Las Vegas. Visitors will be able to tour the facility and find out what happens after you flush. So that's really important. It's amazing. We got a preview tour last week, and I was just blown away by the expanse and the size of the process. It's a huge facility out there, and they're going to be doing tours. So we'll have Julie talk a little bit about that. But before we get into that, let's Julie, could you please introduce yourself and talk about how you became involved with the clean water issues at the Clark County Water Reclamation District?
Sure. Again, I'm Julie Chadburn with the Clark County Water Reclamation District. And, there's always a need for clean water, and careers in clean water are always in demand, and it's a stable career to have. It's a fun career, exciting, and you're doing such a good job. Even if you're not the scientist or the engineer, there's always supporting jobs that are equally as important to get that clean water into our community.
And water is life, as we know. So
Yes.
it is truly a life-saving, life-enhancing work that you guys do there. What are the main functions, I guess, of the Clark County Water Reclamation District? What do you folks accomplish every day on behalf of Southern Nevada residents, and who do you serve?
Sure. We serve over 260,000 customers. Most of those are the residential customers in unincorporated Clark County. But we also take the wastewater from the Las Vegas Strip. So we have over 10,000 commercial customers in our service area as well. We treat the water from the unincorporated areas of the Las Vegas Valley, and as well as Blue Diamond, Laughlin, Indian Springs, Moapa Valley, and Searchlight.
Wow. So I know all the major cities like Las Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, they all have their own treatment facilities, but you fill in everything else within the county, which is a huge area too. It's a lot of geography to cover, so that's something. So how long has the Clark County Water Reclamation District been around and treating wastewater in this county?
Well, we started off as the Clark County Sanitation District back in 1954. That was when the district was first organized. And we began operation at what is now our Flamingo Water Resource Center back in 1956. So we've been treating the wastewater in the valley for over 60 years.
Wow. And people coming out to the Water Fest next Saturday will be able to tour that and kind of see some of that history right in person there. CCWRD is kind of the acronym. It's the largest wastewater agency in the state. How many miles of pipeline to cover all that expanse?
Right. We have over 2,100 miles of pipeline,
Wow.
And we have 23 lift stations that help get that water to our 6 treatment facilities.
So these are the pumps that push that from the sewage system through to the treatment facility. That's fantastic. And you were talking about what is the water cycle. I think that's a good concept that we don't, I know I didn't know enough about.
Right. Well, I think that we've all heard about the water cycle when we were in elementary school. But here in our community, we have the water care cycle. And it's very similar, but it's even more important. It starts off with that precipitation that we get from the Pacific Ocean, the evaporation. Then it goes over to the Rockies, drops the snow, and you have the snow melt into the Colorado River. Then you come up with the second phase, which is consumption. So all of the communities along the Colorado River that use the water for either drinking, irrigation, recreation. Then once the water is used, and it comes back to my agency here in unincorporated Clark County to be cared for. And this is where we take that water, we treat it, we run it through our process, our facilities, and we prepare it for its final journey, which is actually it's not the final journey. It goes back into our community. So the last stage is reuse, and that's where we do put all of that water back into our community's water source.
That's incredible. As people know, we're in the 15th year or 16th year of a drought, and the Colorado River and its tributaries support about 40 million people and more than 7,800 square miles of farmland between Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California. Mexico receives a small allocation of water where the river ends along the national border. It was interesting, in the decades past, the Colorado River used to flow through Mexico into the Sea of Cortez, but it's kind of dried up because of the drought and the overusage. And Lake Mead itself is divided into 4 major basins from west to east, the Boulder Basin, Virgin, and Gregg Basins, plus the Overton Arm, I guess, which extends northward from the Virgin Basin to the confluence of the lake with the Virgin and Muddy Rivers. Each of these basins shows signs of water level changes in the reservoir now. That's something. So your work now, I think, is becoming more and more important, whatever water we can reclaim and use. So what actually happens to wastewater within the treatment plant process to restore it to a cleaner state?
Sure. Well, the water goes through both a physical, biological, and chemical processes. First, we have our preliminary treatment, which removes rags and grease, and that's just pretty much just a physical process. Then we go into primary treatment, and this is both physical and chemical. We add a little bit of chemical just to bind some of the solids, and this is where we do remove the suspended solids and grease from the water. Then we go into secondary treatment, which is mostly biological. Here we remove dissolved organics, phosphorus, and ammonia. From there, we disinfect the water through both a physical and chemical process. We remove pathogens. We reduce the microorganisms. And then we also treat the solids by thickening those solids that we've pulled out of the water through the other phases. We add a little bit of polymer to thicken it up, and we send it through centrifuges to dewater it before we send it off.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it's really a beautiful science cycle there that makes that all work. And we'll talk about that more when we return to the next segment. Great, thank you. And so basically, we're looking at what was interesting to me was we were talking about when it comes out of that processing segment or through those different stages, it's actually cleaner than, say, you were saying the regular runoff water that goes through the wash. So you're actually improving the Las Vegas wash that goes out to Lake Mead from the other water, the runoff water that combines with what you've reprocessed as well. So I think that's interesting. We'll talk about that more when we come back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Shades of Green radio show, simulcast on KDWN 720 AM and KDWN 101.5 FM in Las Vegas. Our show is produced by the Green Alliance of Nevada, sponsored by MV Energy, and I'm your host, Stan Hannell, filling in for Paul Ira today. Also in studio today is our producer, Annette Bubak, who will be broadcasting the episode on Facebook Live. Listeners to this program who might have questions for our guest, Julie Chadburn from the Clark County Water Reclamation District, can call into the radio station at 702-257-5396. That's 702-257-5396. And Julie, we were talking about the very intricate, elaborate process that goes into reclaiming water that goes down our toilets and actually purifying it and putting it back into the Las Vegas wash, heading over to Lake Mead, and it actually comes out cleaner than even the runoff water that from the rainfall that goes into the wash as well. So I'd like to just go through that process a little more detail. It's amazing what's done to make the water reinvigorated with there's certain chemicals. But what was interesting, when we had this preview tour last week, the very first step before you even go into processing is to get all the gunk out and separate the sludge out from the water. And so could we talk about that, just the first stage, and you'll get into this probably more later in the show about what not to put down the toilet. Right. but that first stage is just trying to clean out the junk that people throw down the toilet. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Right. So there are things that come to us in our collection system that we need to take out of the water before we can treat it, because these items will harm our pumps. They could clog our system. And really our goal is to get the most amount of water back into our environment as possible. So our first stop really is what we call the headworks. And this is where we have screens that screen out a lot of that garbage, if you will. Mm-hmm. People do think that their toilets are trash cans and flush things that they shouldn't. And so this is where we screen those items out. And along with that, then we also take out some of the grit from the water as well. So your coffee grounds, rice, eggs, those shouldn't go down the drain as well. Those are things that we need to take out. Otherwise, it really does hurt our pumps in the system.
Yeah, that's a challenge. And so that first gate, it looks exactly like a big gateway, you kind of call it, but it's a big lattice with small openings so that the small stuff can get through. But it blocks things like toilet wipes, the cottonelles and things like that don't break down as much, and it all hits this big wall, and then you have this great big. It looks like a big rake that's like about 6 feet long or something like that, and goes down and dips in there and just scoops that stuff up, and you separate that out, and it's amazing that even gets recycled. So you basically filter it out; it gets channeled to a separate area. It's amazing the automation in this plan, how it all works. Another thing that was kind of neat too, as we were driving on the tour, is that you have this great big set of fans that are aerating the water as it's coming down and preventing, I guess, kind of pulling the odor out of the chemical, even up the street as it's coming down into your facility. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Right. So in addition to treating the water, we also treat the solids, and we need to treat those odors as well. We don't want those odors out into our community. And I think that we do a really good job. I'm sure that with a couple of exceptions, a couple of the rooms that we went into, visitors to our facility will really note that there are no odors. We have that connotation of it being a stinky place or a stinky job, but it really is not.
Yeah.
And we use biology a lot to treat our odors. So we do have big fans that draw the odors off of the collection system, as well as the different wastewater treatment processes. And that air then gets pumped back up through what we call biofilters. Uh-huh. And it's just basically bark that we grow an environment for microbiology that then eats the compounds that make the air smelly. Wow. So we use a lot of microbiology. It's a lot of free help in our system.
Right.
So we use that to our advantage. And
so all these little tiny organisms, they love that stuff.
They do. They thrive on it, and we keep an environment that they like to grow in and to live in, and then they do the work for us.
Yeah, and I kind of was thinking of it like yeast, that these little things grow, and then you just keep feeding them. They keep getting bigger and bigger, and that becomes an active part of the treatment process that goes all the way through the system.
Yes, it does.
Yes, that's awesome. And so some of the chemicals, I was looking at them that you put into it, citric acid, vitamin C that we use, ferric chloride, salts, sodium hypochlorite, and then anionic polymers. That sounds like an interesting phrase. But and then also the microbiology little critters in there that are they create this active slurry, I guess, that is actually used. It goes on top of the sludge to help treat that. Well,
in our secondary treatment process, we again use microbiology to our advantage, and we have different aerated zones and non-aerated zones. So we make the environments rich for some of the microbiology to then intake some of the compounds that we want to try to get rid of, and so again they help us. Then we also have the non-aerated zones. So it's really just it's like a magic show, and it's really incredible to come watch. But again, using this the microbiology to do the work for us that would normally exist in the environment. We just grow an environment that makes them speed up and grow more and more and more.
Yeah.
But that really is a really interesting phase of our treatment.
Yeah, and as you were saying, some of those microbes like air, some of them don't like as much air. So you actually kind of create your own little ecosystem that goes into treating the sludge and separating the water out, and that was kind of interesting. How that does, and then aeration. That was really interesting. Is that you're pumping a lot of air into that to get more oxygen back into the water, and also it helps, I guess, just with the overall cleaning and also for these microbes to keep them healthy.
Right. In our secondary treatment, the air that we pump in does, it helps us grow that environment for them. We also pump air into our solids treatment, and that's to help thicken the solids as we prepare that for disposal as well.
It sounds like you're in a factory and you're making this great big cake almost. That's the way it's going together. Yeah, that's amazing. So, that's pretty incredible. And then also the interesting part is, after you take out all the particles and all that sort of thing, you need to treat it again and purify it, because you've still got some critters in there that might not be helpful to people who consume water. So there's an actual ozone and ultraviolet light part of the plant.
Right. So our final or tertiary treatment stage of the water is we'll send it through dual media filters, and it gets filtrated through there, so it takes some of those just last little bit of solids that have been left, last little particles. Then we'll either send it through UV treatment or into a membrane ozone system. And the UV system really just kind of scrambles the DNA and the bugs that are in the water at that point. To simplify things, it basically just shortens their lifespan without them being able to reproduce, and they'll just die off. So we're not really sterilizing the water, we're just disinfecting it at that phase, and then it's ready to go on its journey back into our water source. And
that was kind of fun to watch the operation. It's all automated right at that end, but you're using that ultraviolet system. The ultraviolet system's like looks like an array of lightsabers. It's these glowing wands that go into the water and purify it. So we'll talk a little bit more when we come back about the upcoming Water Fest, Clean Water Fest, coming up next Saturday. Welcome back to the Shades of Green radio show, simulcast on KDWN 720 AM and KDWN 101.5 FM in Las Vegas. Our show is produced by the Green Alliance of Nevada, sponsored by NV Energy, and I'm your host, Stan Hannell, filling in for Paul Ira today. Julie Chadburn from the Clark County Water Reclamation District has been talking with us about the water care cycle, how water, once it leaves your toilet and sink, goes into the sewage system, is pumped across the county to your local processing facility, and then it goes through a really extensive array of treatment to reinvigorate that water, separate it from the sludge, and even the sludge is treated and passed on to the landfill. So once it goes through your facility, it enters the Las Vegas Wash and heads over to Lake Mead. Basically, how does that work? Or it's almost like a secondary natural filtering system. It also goes up into the wetlands park, too, along the way.
It does. So the water that leaves the Flamingo Water Resource Center mixes with water that came from the city of North Las Vegas and the city of Las Vegas treatment facilities. It's then joined by the water from the city of Henderson's facility in the Las Vegas Wash, and then it dumps into Lake Mead through the Las Vegas Bay. And it does, a lot of our water that leaves our facility does feed into the wetlands park. So it does go through some more natural cleaning through those wetlands.
Just the filtering of the organism, the vegetation there. That's amazing. And so basically we've been talking about this drought that we've been in for over 15 years, and so your work has become much more important. What is the state of Lake Mead and Lake Powell that feeds the Colorado River?
Well, I believe that I've heard that Lake Mead is just about 38% full, and I think that Lake Powell is a little bit under the 50% full. So what we do becomes important is return flow credits.
Right.
We recycle nearly 100% of the water that's used indoors.
Wow.
And all of that water that goes down your drain in your home that we capture and treat, We reclaim that, we return it to Lake Mead, and for every gallon of treated wastewater that we return to the lake, that allows us to take one more gallon out of the lake above our allotment.
That's great. Yeah, and I think it's something like 300,000 acre feet per year that we get, and that's really tiny compared to the California and Arizona customers along the river. And that goes back to the early, when it was established, I guess, back after Hoover Dam was built. And so those laws, I guess, get modified a little bit, but so it's really important that we, I guess right now, do have enough to sustain our community.
Right.
But as our community grows, it's going to need more water eventually. So it's really, out here in the Mojave Desert, a tremendous resource that we really need to be more attentive to, I think, all the time. What items should Nevada water consumers not flush down their toilets or sinks that might cause problem at the water treatment plant? Something that's going to make your job harder to do.
Right. Well, our main goal is to get as much water as we can from our homes and businesses that we can treat and return back to the environment. And there's things that people put down the sink or flush down the toilet that can cause a stoppage somewhere, like in your home or somewhere along our collection system, that then prevents that water to get to us. It might go into the environment where it's a public health and environmental issue. And again, I mentioned this before, but really our toilets and our sinks are not trash cans. Yeah. So one of the worst inventions, I think,
forget that sometimes.
The garbage disposal gives people a false sense of security, and really, it should just be water, soapy water that's going down your drain. We want you to keep any fats, oils, grease from your cooking. All of that needs to go in the garbage. And no, just by washing it down with hot water, that does not solve the problem, because that grease is going to go further down the line where it's mixed in cold water and mixes with your neighbor's grease, and it can cause a big problem. Another thing that people flush down the toilet are the disposable wipes, and they're marketed as flushable, and they do flush, but you could flush a golf ball. It doesn't mean that you should. The flushable wipes really are, they're a great product. They're more popular now by evidence when you go shopping for them. And we're not telling you not to use them. Just when you do, put it in the trash can.
Right.
They don't break down like toilet tissue, and you kind of have to think about it. What you're using it for. You don't want it to break down like toilet tissue, but it just does not break down in the system. So when it gets to our pump stations and to our plant, it really, really messes havoc with our pumps. It just, you get these big wads of the wipes, and we actually have to pull all those out in order for our pumps to work.
Right. I saw you had a cleaning area where somebody has to go in manually and make sure it's can you pull that out. And when you took us to one of the side processing rooms, there was a whole big dump truck that was all full of just these wipes that you've pulled out of the system before you could even treat the water. So it's amazing how that all can glom together here.
And I think from the tours aspect, I felt like that was one of the most impactful visual piece.
It is.
Was seeing the mounds and mounds of those wipes.
Right. And you don't think you're washing your dishes, and you don't think about what you just washed off your plate down the sink or what you just flushed down the toilet. And really, one person, it's not going to make that big of a difference, but it's not just one person.
Right.
It's
We've
you
got
and your
3 million
neighbors
people.
and your friends and their neighbors and their friends. And it really is, when you come on the tour and you see that, it really, and that you're right, it really is impactful, because you do then kind of see what impact your actions have on the system.
Yeah, every little thing makes a difference. And I also thought that visual where you showed how toilet paper versus a wipe, one dissolves, one doesn't dissolve, that was pretty interesting too.
Yeah,
That was great.
I do. I have a set of jars that obviously here on radio I don't have with me today, but I have a set of jars that I take with me everywhere that I go. And before I leave, I'll empty one out, put fresh water in, throw a piece of toilet paper in, however, I have a flushable wipe that's been in my jar for several years.
Wow, that's
And
amazing. It has
that
not
wipe,
broken down.
It looks the same as it did the day it went in there, and the toilet paper breaks up instantly.
Right.
Yes.
See, and I don't think people realize that, and those are just simple things that we as a community can start contributing and using a little bit of common sense. And so this is good. These are great tips.
Yeah, and you've even gotten more active to try and create programs that will encourage people and educate in this. Can you talk about Pain in the Drain program?
Sure. So what we ask is that you don't be a pain in the drain. This is our educational campaigns. There's different umbrellas under it, but this is our FOG, fats, oil, grease, and grit, where we want you to throw away all of those items that would be from your cooking and in your kitchen that you don't think about putting down the disposal. Your salad dressings, your eggshells, your coffee grinds, get as much of it in the garbage as you can, or compost if that's what you do. These are great items for composting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Excellent ideas.
And then the items for your toilet, so the wipes, and it's not just wipes, it's other personal care products, sanitary products, condoms. Those things really need to go in the garbage as much as, as some people find that distasteful. It's easier just to have a garbage can right next to your toilet, put, a bag in it and then just get it right out to your garbage. Then,
because it's going to go to the landfill eventually. So
it's going to wind up in the same place eventually. Exactly. Right. And then we also have our medicine disposal program. And this is, it's been in existence for about 10 years now. We've placed boxes in all of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department substations, as well as the City of North Las Vegas and Mesquite and Boulder City Police Departments.
Right.
And people can go to the substations during business hours and drop off all their expired medicine so it doesn't go into the water.
That's great. Yeah, don't dump pills down the toilet. That's
really
a great idea. And we'll talk more about the upcoming Clean Water Fest when we come back. Welcome back to the Shades of Green radio show, simulcast on KDWN 720 AM and KDWN 101.5 FM in Las Vegas. The show is produced by the Green Alliance of Nevada, sponsored by MV Energy, and I'm your host, Stan Handel, sitting in for Paul Ira today. If our listeners have any questions and would like to call in, the call-in line is 702-257-5396. That's 702-257-5396. Today we're talking with Julie Chadburn from the Clark County Water Reclamation District, and we're talking about what happens after you flush your toilet or put things down the sink. And one of the issues we were talking about during our last segment was pharmaceuticals. Not a good idea to put those into the pipes. Can you explain more about why, Julie?
Sure. We always used to hear that was the proper way to dispose of medicine. It was a safe way. As technology has gotten better and our testing mechanisms have gotten better, we could start to detect it in the water sources a little bit more. Yeah. So we really want to try to keep as much of those products, those antibiotics and other products, out of the drinking water. So we've provided, working with the police stations, the local police stations, we've provided a safe and anonymous way that you could take your expired medicines. Mm-hmm. A lot of people might feel uncomfortable bringing their medicine to a police station, but really, they just want to make sure that the pills are in a bag so that they don't run all over. And you just walk into the lobby and stick it in a box that's been placed in the lobby. So it's a really safe method of disposal. It keeps those medicines out of the hands of someone who might use it inappropriately, and it keeps it out of our water source.
That's tremendous. And so you're saying it's all private. You don't need to put your bottles with your prescription forms on there, dump it all into a plastic baggie, and then they'll accept it in that form, and makes it really secure and easy, and also keeps us, makes your job easier too.
Right, and then that way you could keep pull the label off of your medicine pill for your privacy, and then put that medicine bottle in for recycling.
That's a good point too. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Like it.
That's wonderful. We've been talking a lot about just how people can interact with your with the Clark County Water Reclamation District, and if they do have an issue with wastewater plumbing or sewer-related odors, who should they call, and how do they get in touch with you?
Well, they could call our emergency line, which is 702-668-8354, or they could email us at reportaproblem@cleanwaterteam.com.
That's great. And that is your website for the Clark County Water Reclamation District. It's cleanwaterteam.com. That's great. And you've got an educational event coming up this Saturday, November 3rd. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Stan, I think as you said when you toured our facility, how big it is.
Yeah.
Well, we're a little bigger than Disneyland, and we think that we're just as fun.
Right.
But,
it was interesting. It was amazing. I mean, some of the structures are, like big Disney theme rides. We got to climb up on a bridge to look down into one of the processing systems.
Right.
That was amazing.
Well, we may not have as exciting of rides as Disneyland, but this Saturday marks the one day a year that we actually open up the doors for the community to come see our Flamingo Water Resource Center and see our magic show, see what magic that we do to get that dirty water clean, and you actually get to see that water going back into the environment.
That was amazing to watch it, just going back towards the wash, and just from where we saw it at the beginning, that was
Such
amazing.
an eye-opener.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
So
Good
we're
work.
really excited that we're partnering with the Green Alliance on this event this year, and we've invited other water resource agencies that have a role in that water care cycle to come out. So you'll learn a lot. You'll get to see some demonstrations on how we actually take apart some of our sewer pumps for maintenance. We'll have some of our engineering and construction partners that help build these facilities. So you could come out and learn kind of what goes into building them.
Yeah, just the architecture is beautiful in its own. The form really follows the function, and these are big structures that you see the water flowing, you see the natural habitats to the bark charcoal thing, and it's all. What I was really impressed is how clean your facility is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no, we're reclaiming sewage water, but everything's in big pipes and tubes and containers, and the grounds themselves are spotless. So, and like you said, very few areas where you actually even smell the sewage that's being reprocessed at that site. So that's tremendous.
I totally found it so impressive, but eye-opening and educational. I mean, it's just unbelievable that we as a community don't think about what's going on with our water source once we flush it.
Right.
And it was just so impressive, all the steps that everybody has taken to make sure that it's nice and clean when it goes back into our environment.
Right.
And once more, can you give your address, location, and the time of the event on Saturday?
Sure. Our address is 5857 East Flamingo Road. So basically, you're going to get onto Flamingo and you're going to go all the way east. You can't miss us.
Past Sam's Town and
Past
keep
Sam's
going.
Town. Right. So if you hit Sam's Town, you're almost there. We're going to have some fun activities for the kids. Again, we're going to be doing tours of our facility. So come out, check it out. You'll be amazed. And the event is from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and it is free.
That's tremendous. And as you said, you're also going to have the Southern Nevada Waters Authority out there and people from Springs Preserve and from Green Alliance. We'll have a booth as well, and we'll be helping host that event. Thank you, Julie. You're truly informative, and we're looking forward to being there on Saturday. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just come out. Again, it's you're going to learn a lot, and just don't be a pain in the drain, and get those items in the garbage and not down your drains.
Please don't be a pain in the drain.
Right. Wonderful. And again, the website is www.cleanwaterteam.com. Thank you so much today.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate that. And then I just wanted to review a couple of events that we had last week through the Green Alliance. On Thursday, we hosted we call it Show Me the Money roundtable discussion. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, Annette?
Yeah, so it was an excellent panel discussion, and what the Green Alliance had hoped to do is to be able to bring the different utility companies here in Southern Nevada that are now going to be debuting rebates, incentives that just recently were approved. So we had Southwest Gas, who super excited to be able to offer new rebates, both for commercial and residential. We also had the Water Authority there, who then has their turf, their Water Smart program bumped up to $3.
Wow.
Which is amazing, where before it was $2. So I hear there's
turf reclamation, basically.
Basically you're
trading your grass.
replacing your grass. Yep, you're losing your grass in Las Vegas and turning it into some type of desert type landscape, and you get paid to do that.
Right,
And so
that's
it's low
amazing.
maintenance, less water, much better for the environment here in Southern Nevada. And then we also had NV Energy, who just had a whole portfolio that they were also introducing, anything from energy efficiency in your homes to renewables such as solar. A new exciting one is the electric vehicle incentives,
Yes.
which all of that is starting to now be loaded on their website. So The panel discussion was fabulous. It was really cool to see all utilities
Yes.
talking about it, because when you really start to look at your home or your company, how you can start stacking these opportunities.
Right, and save money.
And save
a
money.
lot of money that way. Yeah, that's tremendous.
Right. And then from my viewpoint, being a realtor, you can also stack a green mortgage. And so there's all different ways to make these home improvements.
That's what we do here at Green Alliance of Nevada, and through the Shades of Green radio show, we save you green in your pocketbook.
That's
Thank
right.
you very much. So
Thanks.
next week we'll be back with MV Energy to talk more about some of those programs.
Perfect.